next step.
Hey everybody, it's Rachel Hansen, the Marketing Manager for Contec Healthcare, and welcome to Dwell Time. This is our post-webinar segment where we get into the nitty-gritty about our products. And just wanted to say thank you again for everyone submitting their questions online. I'm really excited to have with us today Scott Harward and Kedar Patel. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves and tell our audience a little bit about what you do here at Contec Healthcare?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody for your time this afternoon. My name is Scott Harward. I'm the Regional Business Manager, so I oversee a team on the eastern part of North America. And I help assist our team and our customers out there, a lot of you that are viewing this live and possibly recorded, with any of your clean room issues, needs, compliancy, and all that good stuff. So thank you.
Hey, and I'm Kedar Patel. Hopefully you joined us for the webinar. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Contec Healthcare. And I help develop a lot of the product portfolio along with the team that I have, Rachel Davidson, that we outfit the right consumables for you to help you with the compliance.
That's great. Well, let's jump right into it. We had a lot of really great questions. First question I'm going to ask is to you, Kedar. Can you discuss interaction with Paradox RTU and metals like stainless steel?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we do get a lot of questions on stainless steel. In fact, we did a webinar on this as well, probably in the resources that you're going to have a link to. But you know, Paradox being an oxidizing chemistry, you might be able to see some type of reactions with stainless steel. But it's important to understand that that stainless steel may have been previously damaged with drugs we're working with, physical damage, and this is just exposing weak points of the passivation. So I would encourage you to look at the webinar. We do want to make sure that any consumable of metals that we pick within the clean room can withstand these types of chemistries, and it's important to understand that they're not all made the same. So we can try to help you. Rinsing does help quite a bit with prolonging stainless, not stain-proof, steel. So we just need to understand that there are some expectations with the performance.
That's great. Thank you very much. Scott, what is the second product we should be using in the clean room other than sterile Paradox?
Well, we have a couple options. So, with the verbiage in 797, sterile as a should, most facilities are choosing to not utilize sterile in the ISO 7 and 8 environments, and I think that's an appropriate choice in that area. So in your SEC on a daily basis, we still have Preempt Plus. It's still a very good disinfectant, short dwell times as well as low residue, so that could certainly continue to be used, and it's an economical product as well. Also, there's non-sterile TB1 that could be utilized in that capacity too, and also non-sterile Paradox for your larger monthly cleans for your walls, ceilings, and all other surfaces that aren't touched on a daily basis.
All right, I love that. And how easily is it to identify sterile products versus non-sterile products of the same cleaning agent? Kedar, you want to take this one?
I will, because this is becoming quite a bit of a conversation, and just as we discussed with the EPA governing everything that's on the label, they really don't want terms that they don't understand. So we're also working with rebranding, but right now we have a silver border around the Paradox to help you distinguish between the sterile Paradox and a non-sterile Paradox. We also have a red dot indicator. And then if you look closely on the back of the bottle, it will also say the word sterile along with the part number. So we're working on making it a little bit easier to identify. It does take a little bit of time because we are working with government agencies and we have to follow their rules before we can implement these.
Yeah, that's great. I think anything that can help someone identify it quickly is kind of what we want to do. Does Paradox also function as a deactivating agent as it pertains to USP 800?
That's another great question, and I'll field that, and we can talk about this. Scott, I know you have some great experience out in the field. We can't chase deactivation. Deactivation, there's so many different types of cytotoxic drugs and hazardous drugs that are on the NIOSH list that we just can't have one chemistry that's going to impact all of that. So even in 800, 15.1 says to go ahead and chase decontamination. And decontamination for us is cleaning the surface as low as possible. And Scott, I know that we have validated protocols that you've seen used out there, and people can do some checks, but there's some caution with those checks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And deactivation is a bit of a tricky word. I know it's littered throughout USB 800, and I wish honestly they would just remove it because again in section 15.1 it discusses that there's no proven method that deactivates all hazardous drugs on the NIOSH list. I believe there's 238. That list continues to grow, shrink a little bit, but then ultimately grow every 2 years or so. So while a product may have, like Paradox, deactivating properties, nobody should claim that it's a deactivator. If they do, I'd love to see the test data on that. But again, total surface decontamination is what is required. And with our decontamination protocol that we've developed that's been validated, and we can prove decontamination, the physical removal of hazardous drugs from the surface while cleaning and disinfection is ultimately what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's important to understand that we also inoculated that surface with quite a bit of hazardous drugs to show the reduction of it. Some other tests that might be out there might be just a little bit on that same surface. So just dig into the details, just like with the EPA label, read the fine print, because you will see that there could be hours associated with people making those claims of deactivation and relying on something that is much older in their research.
Yeah, you're talking about like hours, potentially days for breaking down the chicken wire. Hat tip to Dr. Mark over there, always talking about breaking down the chicken wire. So is it achievable in the real world? No, right? You may be able to see that with a few drugs, but ultimately what you're compounding on a day in and day out basis, it's not achievable. So ultimately that deactivation with disinfection and proper cleaning is what you want to do on a daily basis.
That's a great point.
I know that's a really hot topic, and I was just going to point you all to our website as well. We do have a USB standards section on our website, and we do address USB 800 along with recommendations for the products you need to use as you are compounding hazardous drugs. We do have a question here online about PPE. So PPE required for personnel while using Paradox. Who would like to take that one?
I think we both can, but honestly, I'm going to let Kadar start.
Okay.
Well, this all depends on a host of things, right? From the engineering controls, how many people are applying it, the application technique. We have some best practices that I know your team also helps deploy when in-servicing customers. But the reality is, you have to do an assessment on the occupational exposure limits when it comes to what PPE is voluntary and what is mandated by the organization. Keep in mind, if you're using the Paradox in a USP 800 facility, you're probably already going to have a lot of the same PPE because you're cleaning these HDs and they want to protect you from the HDs. So this is a bolt-on to maybe a PAPR or something that they already have deployed when you're cleaning under the deck and things like that in the CPEC. Our best practices can make a huge difference. And Scott, I know that you in the field showed that because you did a before and after study, at a facility and showed how much reduction of just occupational exposure limit got that company beneath the need for PPE in that particular location.
Right, absolutely. Proper application, proper disposal is a big part of it. And for years, we've always thought that more is better. But when we're talking specifically about Paradox, less is more. It's got the wetting agent that helps with the dwell time, and you only need 3 minutes for it to do its job. So that, with applying it properly in a clean room setting, direct application, no spray triggers. We want to get away from aerosolizing all chemicals within a pharmacy. Will get you to a better practice in helping you mitigate those odors. Now, sometimes it's not even regarding certain types of PPE just specific to Paradox. It's any disinfectant. Sometimes you talk about when using it overhead, proper eye protection. And we talk about proper eye protection, not just a safety shield or safety glasses, but something that's actually sealed to the face, kind of like a ski mask or whatnot. So also, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think your team also can go in and assess, what people are using, their application techniques, make those recommendations on best practice, and they might be able to truncate some of the PPE that's deployed in that facility. But we always want to err on the side of caution, so always just make sure you get that test data and use it to make that informed decision.
And I'd say that Paradox is one of those things that, peracetic acid, it pierces the senses more so than other previous sporcides out there. So you could be using the best products in the world, but if you're not using it properly, it could be all for nothing. So that's why we do have a team, and I think we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, of 18, 19 Contec shirts scattered throughout the country that work side by side with your teams on proper use, application, disposal. And you can see on the screen here now, there's a map of all the territories of our Contec regional experts that I know a lot of you have worked with, and we think of this as a partnership, right? Trying to develop the right product mix for your workflow, your environment. Also, there's a QR code on the left-hand side. You can scan that to go to our website where you can find your Contec expert.
That's great. Thank you all. Okay, another big one that came up in the chat, Paradox wipes.
Oh.
We get this one a lot.
We do get this one a lot, and it's not because we're not trying. Okay, there are a lot of things that go into what we mentioned earlier, the testing that's required to register the product. That becomes very expensive. You also want to maintain stability on the wipe, that you can consume it when we distribute it through the workflow, so that when it gets to you, it has a usable finite date that you can consume it by. So there's a lot of things that go into that, but rest assured, we have a bunch of brilliant people in our R&D team and supply chain and manufacturing. They're trying to make this happen as quickly as possible. So it is in the pipeline.
And not rush it to market either. We're gonna try to get it right.
That's correct.
The first time.
That is correct.
That's great. All right, Scott, a couple of best practice questions we have here. First, do I, the person's asking, have to only open sterile products like Sterile Paradox in an ISO 5 environment? What if they're using it on the floor?
So I think in viewing this in the most simplistic terms, you open and use that disinfectant in the area of intended use. So if that's in your ISO 5 PEC, has, non-has, then it stays in that environment if you have the ability to store that product in that ISO 5 environment. If you're using it in the SEC, your ISO 7 and 8 environments, then you store it in those environments as well. You know, sterility of the products, if it is a sterile product, is certainly important, but I think even more so is the killing ability, the efficacy of the product when you're using it on a daily basis.
That's right, and Michael mentioned this earlier, but we do have a webinar on material handling where he actually shows you how to open, where to open, what do you need to do, where do you need to wipe, all of those things. So we'll make sure we get that to you as well. All right, let's see now. How do you dispose of unused Paradox?
Oh,
that's a good one.
Okay, that is a good one. Hopefully you are consuming all of the Paradox, but if you do have some remnants, we would definitely default to the facility guidance. We do have this FAQ on our resources. I know, Rachel, you talked about our website being a great resource. So if you go under there, you'll see FAQs on how to dispose of it. The directions on the bottle actually say if there's trace amounts, you can discard it down a sink with copious amounts of water. What does that mean? Pretty much 1 part plus 6 or 7 parts of water. You don't want to get in the habit of that because it can mess with municipalities downstream. So just really default more towards your governing body within the organization. And if you need to seek help outside, go ahead and do that as well, because it's also regulated by each state differently. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those as well.
And that's the right answer, but the solution to pollution is dilution.
I thought y'all muted Scott there.
That's really catchy. I like it. All right.
Shout out Michael and Kate.
Is there anything else that you two would like to add about Paradox? We've got, so many questions that have come online. We'll be sure to try to answer all of those things, all of those questions, either on the chat or we will try to get in touch with all of you individually. But any last words? A lot of questions about Paradox.
Yeah, no need to send me thank you notes for how great it smells. I appreciate that already. But we know that it can be a challenge with the odor, but it is up to best practices and how we can help you mitigate that odor bloom throughout the facility. We got some great techniques that can make a difference. So I would encourage you to call on Scott and Kevin, Scott's counterpart, their team, because they're very knowledgeable about sharing these experiences.
Yeah, I think it smells clean and compliant, but I'm a bit biased.
I love it. Paradox smells clean and compliant. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. Just last little thing, we will be at NHIA in March. We will have a link as well in the chat. As Michael mentioned earlier, he and Mark will be there as well, facilitating a roundtable and doing presentations. We will be at booth 201. So if you want to see these guys, if you have more questions about Paradox, disinfectants, all the things, they will be there. So we hope to see you there, and thank you again for joining us.